Let me tell you about two children who had the same father. Both lived in the same house. Both had access to everything Father had written down, all his promises, his wisdom, family history. Both called themselves his children. Both children knew a promise was coming. The Father had told them so. The first child became an expert on everything Father ever said. He could quote him perfectly, and when people had questions about Father, they came to this child for answers. Now the second child, this child just talked to Father every day, asked questions, sometimes got things wrong. But when Father spoke, this child recognized his voice instantly. One child could quote everything Father ever said. The other knew what mood he was in today. Which child are you? You know, my mom taught me something revolutionary when I was little, though I didn't realize it at the time. She said I could talk to God just like he was my friend, like he was right there with me on the playground. And as a child, I simply believed her. That's what I did. I wasn't even saved through Jesus until I was 19. But I'd been talking to God since I was 5. Maybe that's why recognizing his voice came naturally later. I'd been practicing since childhood, before anyone told me it was supposed to be all complicated. But let me tell you about a time I learned what that really, really means. In my late 20s, I worked this horrible job at Frito-Lay, packing chip bags into shipping boxes all day. It's very mind-numbing work. But I had hours to pray and to talk with the Lord. And one day, this awful question hit me like a punch in the gut. What if I'm self-deceived? What if I don't really love Jesus? What if I'm just pretending? I felt sick. I didn't know how to resolve this. But then God gave me this flash vision. In my mind, I saw my beautiful 5-year-old daughter come up to me and ask me, "Baba, do I love you?" And I burst into tears right there on the production line. Chip bags started spilling everywhere. My supervisor wasn't happy with me. That's when I learned something profound. The question is the answer. A child who worries they don't love their parent, that worry itself proves the love. Someone genuinely deceived doesn't worry about being deceived. But more than that, God met me in that honest, vulnerable moment. He didn't give me a theological argument or point me to a verse. He showed me truth through a love that I already understood. It was already in my heart. That's intimacy. That's knowing his voice. But in 2017, I made what looked like a huge mistake. I was absolutely certain the rapture would happen on September 23rd, 2017. I'd counted 726 days from the blood moon tetrad to the Revelation 12 sign, and 726 in Strong's Greek is harpazo, the rapture. The signs seemed absolutely perfect. I told everyone, yeah, I was that guy, and I was completely wrong. Or was I? See, Jesus didn't condemn Peter for sinking when he walked on water. Instead, he asked, "Why did you doubt?" Peter was the only fully human person in the Bible who walked on water by faith. The other disciples, they stayed safe in the boat. My 2017 prediction wasn't a failure. It was a Peter moment. I stepped out in faith. And like Peter, that failure became a setup for something deeper. Because when it didn't happen, I didn't make excuses. I asked God directly, what did I miss? His answers seemed really strange. Look at reproduction and agriculture. What I discovered changed everything. That sound, that's what it takes to make wheat useful. Now let me show you barley. For months, I studied ancient harvesting, and I found something that made my blood run cold. Barley and wheat. Both valuable grain, both make bread. Same farmer, same field. But the harvest process? Barley matures first. When you harvest barley, you just toss it up in the air, and the wind blows away the chaff. That's it. Ready. But wheat? Wheat has a stubborn husk that grips so tight every single kernel for hours. Or they use something called a tribulum. A heavy wooden sled with sharp stones, intentionally sharp, dragged over the wheat again and again and again. Tribulum. Say it slowly with me. Tribulum. That's where we get the word tribulation. The wheat needs violence. Not because God hates it, because its shell won't let go any other way. So I have to ask you, how tightly are you holding on? Now hold on. Before you comment about eternal security, let me be crystal clear. Both wheat and barley are saved grain. Both make bread. Both are harvested. This isn't about losing salvation. It's about how your sanctification happens. Two types of grain, same farmer, same field. One needs violence to become useful. The other just needs to be lifted up. But God didn't just say agriculture, did he, to me? He said reproduction and agriculture. At first that seemed random, until I realized he was showing me two sides of the same truth. Let me ask you something. When was the first reproduction in the Bible? You're thinking Cain, aren't you? Maybe Abel? No. The first reproduction was Eve. Before creating Eve, God brought every animal before Adam. Adam named them all, but no suitable helper was found. Why? They were separate creations. They couldn't truly partner at his level. Then, God removed Adam's rib to create someone who was bone of his bone. Think about this. What does the rib protect? The heart. God took the very bone that guarded Adam's heart to create his bride. It really cost Adam something. He felt that removal. And just as Adam's body felt pain when the rib was removed to create Eve, the body of Christ will feel it when the most intimate members are removed to become his bride. Do you see it? Some believers are like Eve. They're so intimate with Christ, they're ready to be lifted up like barley. Their chaff just comes off easily because they've already surrendered everything. Others are like the animals, genuinely loved, genuinely saved, but still maintaining that independence. They haven't died to self. These wheat believers need the tribulum. It's not rejection. It's just a different path to the same destination. Your eternal salvation through faith in Jesus Christ is secure, period. This isn't about your destination, it's about your journey. But Jesus said something that should make us think. Luke 21:36. Pray always that you may be counted worthy to escape all these things. Now, if every Christian automatically escapes tribulation, why would Jesus command us to pray for escape? And then, in Revelation, how many churches did Jesus promise would escape the hour of trial? 1 out of 7. 7 churches, all believers, all saved, all real churches with real Christians. But only one, Philadelphia, gets this promise. Because you have kept my word about patient endurance, I will keep you from the hour of trial. 6 churches got rebukes. 1 got the promise of escape. Why? What made them different? They had kept his word of patient endurance. They had not denied his name. They were intimate. They were ready. Why only 1? If all believers automatically escape? The we believers are saved. Look at Revelation 7. The tribulation saints are washed in the blood. They're believers. This isn't about losing salvation. It's about how your sanctification happens. Let me ask you something. Did Jesus say, "My sheep know my word and they follow me"? He didn't, did he? What did he say? My sheep know my voice. I know them and they follow me. Voice, not word. Now think about that. Matthew 7:23. What does Jesus say to those he rejects? I never, what? I never knew you. Not I never heard of you, not I never read about you. Knew. The same Greek word used when Adam knew his wife, Eve. Intimate knowledge. He knows his sheep how? By voice. And he rejects those he never knew. Intimacy. Lack of intimacy is catastrophic. The Pharisees, they could quote the entire Torah, but when the word became flesh and stood before them, they called him the devil. They knew his words but couldn't recognize his voice. Remember our 2 children? When Father promised with something wonderful, the first child studies every word he ever wrote about it, becomes an expert, can debate for hours. The second child runs to Father. When, Daddy? Tell me more. Can I help get ready? You know, there was a man named Enoch. The Bible doesn't say he studied God or memorized God's words. He says he walked with God. Enoch didn't just study God. He walked with God. And you know what happened? He walked right into heaven. No death, no judgment, just lifted up. Like barley in the wind. That's the second child, walking with Father, not just studying about him. So, when the promise arrives, September 23rd, 2025, which child recognizes Father's voice calling them? But when I share about confirmations many are receiving about this date, people cry, confirmation bias, mass delusion, it's the devil. You know what that tells me? They've made no room for God to speak to them personally. They're experts on his word who've never heard his voice. They're like those Jesus warned about. Many will say to me, Lord, Lord, didn't we prophesy in your name? And I will declare, I never knew you. But here's what really concerns me. The anger. If emotions of anger are stirring in you right now, I want you to ask yourself something. Jesus commanded believers to pray to be counted worthy to escape. That's not my opinion. That's his direct words in Luke 21:36. So why would obeying a simple command from Jesus make anyone upset? When I read that verse, I just obeyed. I pray it every day, not just for myself, for my family, for other believers too. What's the cost? What's the risk? But somehow, this simple act of obedience triggers rage in some believers. Why? Could it be that deep down they know they haven't been praying it? And being reminded of their disobedience to a direct command from Jesus stings? Or maybe they've built a theology that makes Jesus' words unnecessary, and hearing his actual command threatens their system. I mean, think about this. What if simply asking is one of the keys to being counted worthy? What if the very act of humble petition, admitting you need God's grace to escape, acknowledging you're not automatically entitled to it, what if that humility is exactly what he's looking for? The studying child says, "Father is harsh. I must earn his approval through perfect doctrine." But the asking child says, "Father is good. I trust his timing." You know who's in the best position right now? It's the brand new believers. You haven't learned to be religious yet. You don't know the proper way to pray. You just talk to him like he's real, because he is. That's how every relationship starts. Playful, discovering boundaries, inside jokes, tender moments. Sometimes there's anger, hurt. Without any of that, how can you know someone or be known at all? But I know some of you are terrified. What if I'm rejected? What if I hear wrong? What if I look foolish? Let me tell you a secret, okay? If you take no risks, intimacy is impossible. Not just with God, with anyone. All things of value cost something. Not money, pride. There are many like Enoch who've walked with God. They weren't perfect. They just showed up. Daily, honestly, messily. That's why Jesus said we can only enter the kingdom as little children. Not because children are perfect. Have you met children? They're loud. They're wrong half the time. They're constantly falling down. But they're humble. They don't care what others think. They just want to be with the one who loves them. Some of you have been Christians for 20 years, but you're still standing at the edge of the playground, analyzing how it works instead of playing with your Father. He's not waiting for you to be perfect. He's waiting for you to be real. So here's the question that matters. Are you barley or wheat? When God lifts you up, does your chaff fall away easily? Or are you gripping your old nature, your religious performance, your safe distance so tightly that you need the tribulum? Remember, the wheat is saved grain. It makes bread. It's valuable. This isn't about losing salvation. But the wheat doesn't choose the tribulum. The wheat simply needs it. I used to pray, "God, let me go in the rapture." Now, I pray, "God, make me barley. Make me someone whose chaff comes off so easily that all you have to do is lift me up. Someone who knows your voice because we talk every day. Someone who's made beautiful, messy mistakes. All the things that come with relationship. And if you're angry at this message, you got to ask yourself, is it because I'm wrong? Because Brian's saying wrong stuff? Or is it because you recognize yourself standing at the edge of that playground holding back? Your salvation is secure, but your intimacy, that's a choice you make every single day. And the Father is waiting. He's been waiting. Not for perfection, for you, the real you, the messy you, the you that might get it wrong, but at least tries. Which child will you choose to be? The one who knows everything about Father, or the one who knows the Father? He's good. He's so good. He's waiting for you to find out for yourself. And don't take my word for it. Ask him. The playground's open. Your Father's waiting. Now, I know some of you are thinking, but what if you're wrong again? And let me speak to that. If you find yourself scratching your head here on the earth after September 23rd, 2025, and you know others went, what next? I want you to remember this. I want you to remember this moment. Remember this warning. You didn't lose your salvation. You're wheat, not barley. You need the tribulum. And maybe that's exactly the process God knew you needed. Because here's the thing about wheat. It becomes bread, beautiful, nourishing bread, but only after the tribulum. If you're left behind, you're not rejected. You're just not ready. And now? Well, now you have a chance to become ready the hard way. It ain't going to be easy. Now you're going to really learn how to live by the Spirit because your survival is going to depend on it. No more theological debating, no more leaning on your own understanding. You'll become one of those tribulation saints who wash their robes in the blood of the Lamb. You'll earn a crown through fire that you could have received through surrender. The easy path will be gone, but the destination remains the same. So, if you're watching this after September 23rd, 2025, and some of us are gone, don't despair. Get serious. Get real. And remember, the wheat becomes bread too. It just hurts more. And maybe, just maybe, that pain will finally break the shell you wouldn't let go of any other way.